Hi there, friends. Happy Monday. I was all set, ready to go, and then started thinking I really need to clean my paper trimmer. I don't know how I let it get so bad, but I did. So that's what I was doing. But let me just move that. I can finish the rest later. I hope you've had a good weekend. Mine was good. Kind of quiet for the most part. The kids are gone visiting John's family, and Emily back in Cincinnati doing her thing. And let's see, Saturday I went to a baby shower, which was a lot of fun. It was for one of my customers who actually I've gotten to know. She and her mom and her sister and aunts and cousins through my Creative Escape weekends. And when I moved to Columbus, I now live just about 20 minutes from Donna's house, from her mom's house. So Donna had a very nice shower for Danielle. One of my favorite things about it was that they asked every guest to bring a favorite children's book. And I don't know why, but a few weeks ago, I thought of the book. It just kind of like came to me even before I got the shower invitation. It's a Dr. Seuss book, I believe, called 10 Apples Up on Top. And I just remember that being like one of the first books I could truly read as a little girl. And I was able to find that at the store. So that's what I took. And of course, they asked everybody to sign the inside of the book and that sort of thing. So I just thought it was a really fun idea to get the new baby's own library started. So I'm going to remember that when I ever host a baby shower. The other thing I loved about this, that on Danielle's registry was one of those plastic totes that closes, has a handle, but inside are lots of different small totes designed to hold photographs. And I thought, well, gee, I know her through scrapbooking weekends. So that's what I gave to Danielle to, because I'm sure she'll, when I see her in October at the Creative Escape weekend, I'm sure she'll have plenty of pictures of her newborn to be scrapbooking. And then I put a couple of stamp sets in there that I thought would be good for her to use along with that, scrapbooking and memory keeping and stuff like that. And yeah, so it was really nice. And yesterday I worked most of the day. I watched a movie late in the afternoon. So it was just kind of a chill day. Even when I worked, it just still felt kind of chill. So happy Monday. I'm ready to jump back into a very busy week. A few things I want to show you before we start on today's cards. Today's going to be fast and fabulous cards, and you're going to love these layouts. Easy, quick, fun, and easy to personalize. But I first of all need to give a shout out to Susie Brunk, who's my upline. She sent me this card, and I just thought it was darling, made with the Tea Boutique suite. And it's one of those 3.5 by 5 note cards. I love it, just love it. And then I got this one from a customer, Lori Hall, which I think is such a pretty card. And she wrote a very nice note, which really just means so much. I just really, I don't know, it kind of got to me when I read it. I just appreciate that personal note so much. But here's something I want to show you. A lot of times we've talked about what do you do when you have embellishments on your cards that are raised up a bit? And does that create additional postage? And my trick for that has always been when you put it in the envelope, stick a piece of cardstock over it, and that way it smooths anything out so the cards will not get caught in the postal machines going through. But this is what Lori did. You know, we get those packaging envelopes, that even maybe if you purchase my classes to go, some of those bubble envelopes that I use, she cut a piece of that and used that. So I'm like, what a great way to recycle something that we would normally throw away, and it's not using up our cardstock. So thank you so much, Lori, for that. I need to talk about classes to go for just a moment, and I will make this quick. Tomorrow is the last day to order the Happy Forest Friends class to go. It's a mega class. You make 10 different cards, including a slimline card, so it's awesome. It's just fun, friendly, bright, cheerful cards. So you want to check that out. It's on my blog, stampinpeace.com. I've also been sending out emails for that, but tomorrow is the last day for registration. Many of you know that I had prepared a Sweetest Cherries class to go. It has been delayed. Okay, this was ready to go last week, and I switched it up and put out Happy Forest Friends instead. It is going to be delayed another week. The reason being that the designer series paper that's included with that class is unorderable right now. And I don't like to put out registration on classes to go if I already know a product is not available. But I just checked this morning. The availability on that DSP is supposed to be the week of June 20th. So the Sweetest Cherries class will be announced and open for registration. What's today, the 6th? So Sunday the 12th, okay, June 12th, with registration going through the 19th. And then we should be all good with that. In the meantime, though, later today, you will get an email and also see on my blog my potted geraniums class to go. It's gorgeous, it's fun, it's bright, it's summery, it's cheerful, and this last card is even a fun fold. With that, you make 8 cards, 2 each of 4 designs, and they are fabulous. So, Happy Forest Friends, last day to order is tomorrow. The potted geraniums class to go will be open for registration later today. And then the Sweetest Cherries class to go will open for registration on Sunday the 12th. So I do my best, and that's why I try to plan out classes a few at a time in case I need to move some around due to product availability or unavailability. All right, I'm ready to flip my camera around. So please, while I'm doing that, would you share this live video and invite others to join us, because we've got some awesome things coming up for you to see. I wanted to point out in our annual catalog, the Pretty Prince 12 by 12 designer series paper. This is what I'm using for today's card class, along with the go-to greetings. And I'm going to show you it's basically the same layout, card layout, but sized differently, and it will accommodate all of these greetings. All right, so that's page 133 in the annual catalog for the designer series paper, and the name of the stamp set is Go-To Greetings, which I've used quite a bit, so I'm sure you're familiar with that. Now, before we start, I'm going to have ask that you use some kind of grid paper or even scrap paper, and it's best that it be paper and not cardstock. But what I want you to do with that is need to kind of play around a little bit. So I need I'm going to cut this 4 inches by 4 inches. If you don't want to use grid paper, that's fine. Any kind of scrap. paper you have, but make sure it's 4 by 4. So cut off any edges, any things like that. You truly want it to be a 4 by 4 piece. And then with the remaining, I'm going to cut a piece that measures 3 inches. Let me double check. 3 by 3 1/4. Yes. So I guess I could have just cut that straight up, right? So I want the first one to be 4 by 4, and I want my second one to be 3 inches by 3 3/4. So for now, put aside the 3 3/4 inch one. For this one, I want you to mark at 1.5 inches. It was 1.5 inches. So that's basically, if you're using the grid paper, it's basically 6 squares. And then on the opposite side, the left side, do 1.5 inches from the bottom. So just make a little tick mark with your pencil. You want to put each of those pencil marks into the cutting groove. And then you're just going to cut a diagonal line. And you'll see in a moment how we're going to use this. And then I'm using 1 whole sheet of designer series paper. I have 9 card bases. I have 9 pieces of 5 1/4 by 4 inch basic white for the inside. And then for the front, and I'll show you both ways. You can either use white as a layer, or you can use a coordinating color. So I've pulled out some Coastal Cabana, and I'll show you what it looks like both ways. So the first thing you're going to do is take this designer series paper, and you're going to cut the whole thing into 4 by 4 squares. So cut it 4 inches once, and 4 inches again. And then the opposite direction, I'm going to cut it 4 inches. So when you've cut 4 by 4 squares, you're going to end up with 9 of the DSP squares. All right. Now we're going to do some diagonal cutting, but I prefer to cut these maybe just 1 or 2 at a time, because I want the top and bottom, when I cut them, to match up together. And it's a little bit tricky if you want to mark it and cut them all at once to keep them in order. So if you feel comfortable doing that way, cutting them all at once, keeping them in order, go ahead and do that. But for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to do 1 at a time. So the first thing I want to do is, and it's real easy to see, whoops, too high. It's real easy to see here. Here's 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to, on the very edge, mark 1.5 inches. Then I can flip it all the way around. And on the opposite side, I'm also going to mark. Oops, can I see that? I need my glasses on. I'm thinking I can't see. The glasses are on my head. Whoops. I'm also going to mark 1.5 inches. So now you should be able to see that I've got a little pencil mark here. So 1.5 inches from the bottom left corner and 1.5 inches from the top right corner. And I'm going to put those pencil marks right into my cutting groove. And I'm going to cut just like that. And you'll see they match up the scrap paper I have. And I'm going to go ahead and do one more. Do the same way. You want to mark that 1.5 inches. and 1.5 inches. Put those pencil marks both into the cutting groove. And cut at an angle. I'll put those other 7 aside for now. So now I'm going to take one of these pieces of white cardstock, and essentially what I'm going to do is be stamping my go-to greeting right here in the middle. So I'm going to pull out the happy birthday. This is the largest one, and I already measured this. I need about 1.25 inches here. So that works out fine. So that's how I figured out my measurements. So all you have to do is copy. I did the hard part for you. And I'm going to stamp this with Bermuda Bay. I'm going to stamp it on my on some scrap paper first. Oh yeah, that'll look really nice in there. So I'm just going to try to perfect. Now, what I was going to tell you about that scrap paper, I practiced one earlier. You know how easy it is to get ink all the way around that edge. If you're worried that you're going to wiggle your stamp when you're stamping, that's the purpose of the scrap paper that we cut. So now if for some reason I stamp and I get an edge, that edge is going to be on the scrap paper, not on the DSP that I'm using for my card. Okay, so that's the purpose of that scrap paper. If you trust yourself without the scrap paper, by all means, go for it. Sometimes too, it even just depends on the stamp you're using. But you know yourself. If you tend to over ink or rock it and you get an edge, of course we're not supposed to rock when we stamp, right? Just go straight down and then straight up. But using the scrap paper is just a precaution that you can take. So now I'm going to put my DSP on. I had already cut my cardstock, my bases. So I had actually had already 9 card bases cut. And again, one thing to think about with this designer series paper is, let me read you all the colors in here. It encompasses a lot. When you look at it, you think, oh, there's 4 main colors. Well, actually, there's more because of all the different shades in each of the prints. So here, Bermuda Bay, Blackberry Bliss, Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, Evening Evergreen, Gorgeous Grape, Petal Pink, Rich Razzleberry, Shaded Spruce, Soft Seafoam, Soft Succulent, and Sweet Sorbet. So you probably heard a number of greens in there. Okay, you heard Bermuda Bay, you heard Coastal Cabana, Shaded Spruce. These are all colors that you can see in these green prints. Soft Seafoam, Soft Succulent. So you might even vary which color card base you're going to use. But to make purposes easy for this demonstration, I'm using Bermuda Bay. And it's going to work fine. But you can also see that on this particular square, Coastal Cabana would be beautiful with it. I think the Soft Seafoam would be great too. So that's a way that also you just changing up the card bases, you can customize each one a little bit. And then maybe the last thing you want to do to your card is add some kind of embellishment. I've gotten all organized with my embellishments here. Ooh, that's kind of pretty. Oh, these are pretty. Well, should we try those? Okay, I've pulled out 3, so we'll try these for now. So these are new. What is this? 2021, 2023 in color opal rounds. So they do have some variation of color in each of those in colors, and they have some like glittery iridescent sparkle to them as well. And I think either of these greens, soft subtle or evening evergreen, would work really nicely with this. So I'm gonna go, you can put them on the white. Oh, I don't know where I want them. Or you can put them on the DSP themselves. I don't know if I want that dark one. Oh yeah, I think that's kind of cool. You can even mix and match the shades like this. Go put this one up here. So there's the completed card. Now, if I were doing these, since this is what I'm calling Fast and Fabulous, I would do them assembly line. So I would make all of the layers first, then I'd put them all on the card bases. And then I would embellish them all at once. Let's go ahead and make the second one, but I want to show you how you can also use a color behind that DSP instead of the basic white. So here I've chosen Coastal Cabana. I think it will work nice with the print as well as the Bermuda Bay card base. So I trust myself, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'll show you here using the scrap paper. And all you have to do is lay it down. Number one, it gives you a guide of where you're to be stamping. And it also protects your DSP. So now I will remove that scrap paper, and then I'm going to add my designer series paper. Remember, the DSP started as a 4x4 square. And now I'm ready to add that to my Bermuda Bay card base. Just like that. So you can see this gives a more subtle look, having that color there, and this gives more of a, what do I say, pop. The sentiment sort of pops, stands out a little bit more with the white behind it. I cannot see comments today, and I don't know why. Let me see if I can go back and get them. Maybe not. So I hope you're commenting. I hope you're talking and that you love it. Let's try again, see if I can get it. Okay, now I'm seeing comments. Now I feel better, like you're really there. All right, and again, I'll add some of these pretty embellishments. I'm going to mix and match those two shades, Soft Succulent and Evening Evergreen. Did anybody get these embellishments? They're really very pretty. You know, sometimes we look at something in the catalog and we think, I'm not so sure. Well, I'm telling you, they're even prettier in person. They're gorgeous. And I think they're really versatile. And yes, they are the 2021 to 2023 in colors, but you can use them with other colors as well. Like, I think this would be fine with Crushed Curry or So Saffron. You get the idea. All right, so there's the first two. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to show you those two. When I post my pictures, I will have done all 9. And again, when you do something like this, oh, and I have the whites cut for the inside as well. When you do something like this, and you could consider this a one-sheet wonder because you're cutting one sheet of 12 by 12 designer series paper into those 9 4x4 squares. But cut all your card bases, cut all of the insides, cut the front base, and then cut all of your squares at once. So now I can finish these doing them assembly line, which is a little bit quicker. So when I talk about fast and fabulous cards, doing assembly line limits the amount of time, gets you through the process a little more quickly. All right, so we've done that. Now, for those of you that have been watching and thinking, okay, Mary, but you used that largest stamp for those cards, and any of these would fit great because they're the same, basically the same height. But now you're probably thinking, okay, Mary, but now you have all these small sentiments. Isn't that white space, that open space on those cards a little big for these smaller ones? Yes, it is. So I could either put the small ones in that larger space and maybe put a flower or something punched, an image that I stamped and die cut. I could do something like that. Or I can change up the sizing to do the same layout, but in a smaller size. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So now I'm going to that piece of scrap that is 3 inches by 3 3/4. Again, I'm going to mark at 1.5 inches on opposite corners. Whoops. So I have 1.5 inch from the bottom left, and I have 1.5 inches from the top right corner. I'm going to put those pencil marks right into my cutting groove, and these will be my guides for stamping, and of course to avoid getting anything on my DSP that I'm using. Now the size of the DSP that I'm cutting this time is different. We want rectangles that measure 3 inches by 3 3/4. So I'm going to start on the 3 3/4 size. Whoops. So 3 3/4 again. And then 3 3/4 again. And then I've used pretty much the whole strip, a whole piece of 12 by 12 designer series paper, except I have this 3/4 inch strip left. But I can put that to use on something else. I can even add it to the inside of one of the cards if I choose. And then, so now I have 12 inches by 3 3/4. Okay, 12 by 3 3/4 high. And I'm going to cut these strips at 3 inches. So working with this size rectangle, cutting your DSP like this, now I have rectangles to make 12 cards. All right, so it also makes your DSP go a little bit further. Instead of 9 cards with the other size, I'm doing 12 cards with this. But it's a great way to make a lot of really nice cards quickly and easily. And again, if you want to cut, like if you have a thicker cutter, like if I want to use my Carl cutter, I could mark the top DSP and cut all these at once. For today's purposes, I'm just going to use my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, and I'll cut one at a time. So the first one, again, I'm marking at 1.5 inch on opposite sides. So you should be measuring 1.5, however you do it. I'm just using this as a quick guide, but you should be measuring 1.5 inch from the bottom left corner and 1.5 inch from the top right corner. Then you're going to lay those pencil marks right in the cutting groove. Those grooves are really that cutting groove is really easy to see with the with the Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer. And if you do cut your whole stack at once, just be careful that you pull both pieces from each stack at the same time, because like I said, when I separate them, I still want them to go together. Okay, I want to know that these came from the same rectangle or the same square if you're doing the larger ones. So now I have 12 Blackberry Bliss card bases cut. I have 12 pieces of basic white that measure 5 1/4 by 4 inches for the inside. And then I have, I'm supposed to have 12. Here's the other ones. 12 pieces that measure 3 inches by 4 1/4. Okay, 3 inches by 4 1/4. And this is what's going to be the base for the DSP. So you can see changing the size of all the paper, all the cardstock, the DSP, now gives me a small area to stamp in. So that will accommodate these smaller sentiments. So let's do a happy birthday again. Oops, is that the one I wanted? I was going to go the larger one. Can't seem to pull it out. There we go. So, and you can kind of look in here and see if you think that's going to work. And I'll give you a tip. If you find that it's a little too close, you can even put the tiniest bit of adhesive on the back of your scrap. Of course, this is a little easier with photopolymer stamps because you can see through them a little better, but we can do this with the rubber stamps as well. I'm going to stamp my sentiment with Blackberry Bliss ink, keeping everything coordinated. Just want to see how straight I can stamp this. Okay, pretty good. Now doing this looks like the stamp could be just a wee bit big for this space. And it is just a wee bit big, okay? If this happens to you, you can just adjust your length here. Instead of going 1.5, maybe go 1 1/4, all right? Or even going 1 3/8 from each side. But I'm going to just flip that over. And here's another way. If that happens, if you decide, okay, that's the sentiment I really want, but it's not quite fitting, I'm going to show you something else. The other thing you can do, see, that's a little too tight, right? I don't like it cutting off the top of my letters. And it really only cuts off the 2. So what I can do is, so we're going to do some I'm showing you some troubleshooting too, because all the sentiments are sized differently, not just in the go-to greeting set, but all of our other stamp sets as well. And it's hard to make just one fits every, one size fits every sentiment. So if that happens, this is what you can do. And try it out on scrap paper first. You can even make your base, that white base, out of scrap paper. So now I have this. All I have to do is snip right along there. You can either use your paper trimmer or just go along the top with your paper snips like that. All right. So don't get frustrated if the first time you do it and you're like, well, that didn't fit the way I wanted it to. Not a problem. So let's now put in, let's do a second one. And basically, like in this, we have 1, 2, even that is same height as these. So these are about the same. And then these are the same. But you get some really narrow strips. You don't need them to be that narrow, because then that hello is hardly going to show up. That thank you is hardly going to show up. So let's try it with some of these different ones. Again, I'm going to demonstrate using that scrap paper we cut. And I'm going to show you another way to use those teeny tiny ones as well. So practice stamping straight with the stamp. Okay, pretty good. Okay, perfect. And do you see how my scrap paper picked up the ink from the edge of my rubber stamp, but it didn't get, that edge didn't get on the white, and I kept my DSP clean by using that scrap paper. I see Marion Hendrick is on here. And Marion, I just want to give a shout out for your granddaughter, Mia, for her her dance that you posted. And I'm so glad you did. Because Isn't that a mother's prerogative or a grandma's prerogative to do a little bragging? So it was fun to see that. I don't have any little ones. My kids are grown and I don't have any grandchildren yet, so I enjoy seeing those kinds of posts others, and it makes me look forward to the day that I am a grandma. All right, so let's go ahead and put these. Looks like I pushed a little harder in the middle there, didn't it? It did. I look like I put more pressure there. I'm going to flip this over and just do it again, because you know what? I can. We have two sides of every paper. Every piece of cardstock has two sides, right? So let me see if I can stamp this a little more evenly with more even pressure than I did on that. Sometimes that's harder to stamp with more even pressure on the small stamps, at least for me. So I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to kind of hold it in place, not press. Oh, much better, much better. So with stamping, we don't really have to press hard all the time. We just need to set it down and maybe hold it for a few seconds, but you can see what a difference that makes. See how it's darker here and lighter? Especially on this end, much lighter. So now I feel like it's all even. And I will add these to my card bases. Now this is pretty dark. Look at how dark that is on there. I'm thinking I might want a little something around it. So I'm going to add some white cardstock behind these. So I'm just going to do a very narrow border. Oh, you know what? No, I'm not going to do cardstock. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to use, let me pull it out here. Oh, I'm so glad I thought of this. I love it when I get those light bulbs going off. I'm going to use some of the Lovely Layers vellum, which comes pre-cut, 5 inches by 3 3/4. Ooh, I love that. Yes, that's what I'm using. So I will add this first. Whenever I work with vellum, I like to make sure that my adhesive is in a place where it will be covered up by the next layer on top. So it'll be hidden, because nobody wants to see that through their vellum, right? You could even pop up some of these layers on dimensionals, if that interests you. You could even cut the vellum down if you wanted more of a narrow border of vellum behind the DSP layer. Now I felt like I stamped too high there. It's even stamping, but it's a little high, isn't it? Try and think, what can I do to make that less noticeable? How about adding a little bow? Did anybody else catch that this was a little high? You know, Jan, I'm like you. I forgot about this for a long time, this kind of layout. And you're so right. It's a great way to showcase just beautiful DSP. You kind of let the DSP do all the work and add whatever sentiment is appropriate for your occasion or your reason for sending a card. Oh yeah, I'm gonna like this. Lori, you're right. I could do some bling there. Jewels, I'm scrolling back. So I think I'm just going to use my multi-purpose glue right here. That's the great thing about ribbons and trims and embellishments. They often not only add another element of creativity or artistry, but they can also be used to like balance things out or cover a mistake, right? There's no mistakes, there's just happy accidents. And I want to take a look. So this is Blackberry Bliss, the main color. It almost looks like a gray behind there, like the smoky slate, but it's actually the vellum. But I'm thinking these pink opal rounds would look really nice on here too. And I'm going to use them just a little bit differently this time. Put them here so you can see better. I'm going to take a large one. I'm going to put it right there. And I'm going to put a small one here. I'm going to leave it just like that. And I think should I do one on this other? I didn't follow my rule of odd numbers there. Maybe I'll just do this. Do you do that too? Play around with your embellishments? Thinking about where they should go. All right, that makes me happy. Okay, how about you? What do you think? All right, so you can see, what is it? In about, 40 minutes or so? Because I know I talked. So in about 40 minutes or so, I demonstrated 4 cards. That's 10 minutes apiece. However, you're going to make them much more quickly because you're not going to be stopping and talking and explaining. You're just going to go right through them. So you'll actually be able to whip up a bunch of what I like to call fast and fabulous cards in really no time at all. So think about what size you want to use. Cut your DSP, then cut all of your card bases, cut the whites for the inside, and cut the base that you're going to stamp on and put your DSP on. And that's what I'm going to do once I say goodbye. I'm going to finish knocking out all of these at the end of the next hour. I will have a plethora of pretty happy birthday cards to send. And I was just thinking as I was making these, looking at the go-to greeting set, any of these sentiments would be awesome in here. Oh, I did want to show you one more thing. If you want to stay around, I'm going to show you one more thing. because some of these sentiments are teeny, teeny, tiny, all right? And I'm going to give you a couple ideas of how you can balance things out with those teeny, tiny sentiments. So I'm going to take this, and again, I will measure out that 1.5 inches from the opposite corners. And also, you know, even like these that seemed a little bit crowded on the second layout, you could put these in the first layout that has the larger space and maybe add some more embellishments or a flower or a large ribbon bow, something like that to fill in some of the white space. And then I'm going to cut, because some of these, okay, so now let's look at, where is it? The hello. Okay. Super, super tiny, right? You're going to end up with a lot of extra space, but you don't want to make that so small because you're still going to end up with quite a bit of white space there. So here's one thing you can do. I need to pull this closer to me for stamping. Scrap paper. Okay. So I'm going to put my scrap paper in place. Nope. I was hoping there'd still that teeny bit of adhesive there, but let me put some more there. Oh, there it is. That one's sticking. Okay, so now instead of doing just one, I'm going to stamp in the middle, and then I'm going to stamp to the left, and then I'm going to stamp to the right. So now instead of one hello, I've got hello, hello, hello. That one on the left was a little light, but that's okay. I'm going with it. Doris, thanks so much for sharing. I really, really appreciate that. I'm always trying to broaden my reach and in an effort to gain customers and viewers and followers and potential team members, things like that. And let me get a piece of another DSP. Or vellum, not DSP, vellum. So you can see, just kind of use your imagination and adjust what you're doing to the size of your sentiments. But honestly, if you keep these two layouts using the measurements I gave you, these two will accommodate nearly all of your sentiments. Okay, the straight across sentiments, not so much ones that, it's not going to work with ones that have the words stacked. But if the words are drawn out across, this will accommodate all of those. Well, of course, we need some bling, right? Who's all about the bling with me? You know what? Even this purple, I think, would work on there. I think that works on there, too. I love how you can, ooh, one embellishment jumped on up on there. Well, okay, set that aside. I picked up two at once. Put that here. Oh gosh. I got one stuck there. Goodness. I'll put that one there. All right. So I know you guys love it when I add one more thing, right? Add one more card. Oh, let me show you this. I'll do one more. Because you know that I'm probably going to be giving away all these cards, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask a question, though, before I give these away. Would you rather receive one of the completed cards, 5 people, I'd give away each of the 5 cards, or I could have 2 lucky winners who would receive some pieces of DSP to make their own? Cindy, I'm glad you love them. Nice to get the extra ideas. Good, good. That's my intention. Oh, either. Oh, receive whatever you can give. You guys are, you just make life very easy. Gail Ashworth says cards. Okay. I think I'll stick with my usual and give the cards away. And then you can pull out some of your DSP. Cut some this afternoon. Cut one sheet of DSP. Choose whether you like the larger layout or the smaller. Cut one piece of DSP with the measurements I gave you and put a set of cards together. I would love to see what you create with these layouts and the ideas you saw today. So that being said, I will give away each of these 5 cards. I feel like each time I do this, I'm giving away more and more and more. Whatever your heart's desire. I love it, Lori. Cindy, you like the smaller better? I actually do too. But I also wanted to show a way to accommodate some of those larger sentiments. So I guess it depends really on what sentiments you're going to be working with. Lucia says she's going to be using that layout tonight. That is music to my ears. That's why I do what I do, to inspire you to create on your own. So thank you. I'm happy to hear that. And then, Lynn, I would love to give you a PDF every time I get on, but when I get on live 3 times a week, plus doing classes to go each week, and throwing in some free PDF tutorials on Fridays, it's hard for me to have the time to do a PDF for a Facebook Live project. All right, so if you are interested in winning one of today's cards, please type Pretty Prince. That's the name of the DSP, Pretty Prince DSP. Okay. Pretty Prince DSP, comment, type that in the comments now, and your name will be entered into the drawing to receive one of the 5 cards made today. And I'm going to say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks for joining me here on Stampin' Peace with Mary Knabe. And I've got some cards to finish up quickly. So have a great day, and I hope that you will make some fast and fabulous cards with the layouts I've demonstrated today. And if you do, would you please take a photo and post it here and share it with all of us. I can't wait to see what you make. Have a good day. Bye-bye.